All right. Hello and welcome to the Fiddleback News Show. This week we're going to talk about the apprenticeships. And because we're going to talk about the apprenticeships, I got Dylan with me today. He was the first apprentice at Fiddleback Forge. First of all, I want to talk about why I have an apprentice program. And that is because I learned to make knives for free, mostly at blade forums, but also at Georgia Guild events. And so I want to pass that on. And so I've always taught knife making, and I don't charge anything for the apprentice program, except your work.
Yeah, I don't think it's free.
Yeah, well, it doesn't cost money. And then how it works is I trade time in my shop working on your own knives for time in my shop working on my stuff. And then once you're good enough, I tend to hire you because you're a trained employee and ready to go. And so it does two things for me. It vets employees and it teaches knife making. And then as far as graduation, it's pretty easy to graduate from my apprentice program because your knives only have to come up to the level that my knives are. And since my knives aren't masterworks, it doesn't require you become a master artist to complete my apprentice program. Generally, at the end of the program, I'll tell you that your knives are ready to, they're as good as mine, and you make me one and present me one, and that is the only thing the entire apprentice program has cost you. And then lastly, I want to talk about who the apprentices are and have been, and the list is Dylan Fletcher, Dan Eastland, this Dylan, Ron Solomon, Adam Andreessen, Damon Lusky, Judy Yoon, Alan Searles, Chris Linton, Aubrey Groover, Ken Craggs, and John Brumbaugh. And it's a huge source of pride to me to have taught anything to these makers. And many of them have graduated the apprentice program and are full-time makers and blade show table holders. And it's just a very big source of pride for me. And many of them here are already much better knife makers than I am. For the rest of the show, Dylan and I are going to jump back and forth and talk about how the apprentice program got started at Fiddleback Forge. And I'm going to start by saying that when Dylan came aboard, Fiddleback Forge was only a few weeks full-time. I had been...
One grinder in a basement.
One grinder in a basement, and me making knives desperately during a layoff to try to support my family. And Dylan came up to visit and wanted to learn. And we worked out this apprentice program, and of course Dylan, immensely talented, and it didn't take him long to have learned just about everything I could teach a guy, and really established the fact that this apprentice concept could work, and then also established the fact that employee concept worked as well.
The story of that first day we met is interesting. I'll give you the short version. I was making Kydex sheaths and working for a motorcycle shop at the time. And Andy didn't have any sheaths with his knife, and he had seen my stuff, and we got to talking on blade forums, and he was like, hey, why don't you come by the house, have dinner, hang out, and we'll talk about Kydex sheaths. Maybe you do some Kydex sheaths for some of the knives, yada yada. And neither one of us knew what each other looked like. And all he knew about me was that I was going through the selection process for the Alpharetta Police Department at the time. And all I knew about him is that he had really old looking hands on the internet, because I'd never seen his face, and all you ever saw were his hands holding
I have
knives.
old looking hands.
And he has old hands. He has old guy hands. And so he invited me over, and I went over to his house, and I knocked on the door, and he opened up the door, and both of us just stood there looking at each other for a second. Like, I remember exactly what I was thinking.
Dylan had a mohawk.
Yeah, I had a blue mohawk and tattoos and stuff, you know, big earrings and stuff. So he's looking at it like, man, is this guy gonna rob me before Dylan gets here? And I'm looking at Andy thinking, is your dad home? And but anyways, we hit it off right off the bat, and went down, hung out in the basement. He showed me around the shop and everything, and it was super cool. I don't know if you remember this. Andy gave me something the first time I went over to his house.
Uh-oh.
Look at this. Now, this is nothing like what it looked like back then, but this was, what was this, the Bushcrafter?
Bushcrafter Senior.
Yeah, the Bushcrafter Senior.
The original
Now, you
one.
got to understand that this thing has changed in its life, because I beat the crap out of it, and then
You reshaped the handle, I see.
reshaped the top of the handle right there. I shaved part of it off, because at the time, I was one of those
Chest lever guys.
I was
You
one
were
of
a
those
chest
people
lever guy.
who would do a chest
Oh.
lever.
And
so
he
I
made the
wanted to
blade
stay down.
tactical also, which we'll get to later.
I did blue the blade.
Tactical.
Because, well, the reason I tell people is because I wanted it to be slightly more corrosion resistant, but really it was tactical. It was tactical as hell. Look at how tactical that is. It's like a ninja.
It's very tactical.
But that's it. So that's one of Andy's first knives.
That was a
some
very
stuff.
early
There's
one.
no bullseye tube. It's like a micarta tube thing, and that's pretty neat. So I've got a really old piece of history, and he's got some of my old knives that I hope he doesn't ever show anybody.
I got some of his old ugly knives
He's
too,
got
and
some real
I wish I had
evidence.
them with me today.
Yeah. Luckily, I kind of sprung this one. So anyway, so that's how we met, and before I knew it, he basically, I remember the first time when I knew I was his apprentice. I had gone over there and I had started kind of learning stuff from him. And the day I knew I was an apprentice is we got done messing around with the grinders, and he handed me a broom and he said, "Now clean all this shit up." And I thought, okay, there's a give and take here. I'm an apprentice. I'm an official. And I think I actually posted something on the interweb about, hey, I'm an apprentice now. Everybody get ready. So that's how that came about. And since I was working in the motorcycle business, this was back in 2009. And the economy had tanked all around. I mean, Andy got laid off. That's how he went full time. I was getting paychecks that were for a very set amount just because the owner of the motorcycle shop didn't want me to go hungry. And so one day Andy was like, "Man, why don't you just come and do this?" And so I went and talked to my boss, and I said, "I'm leaving. I'm going to go learn how to make knives." And he said, "All right, well, you're not going to miss anything here. If you want your job back, let me know." And that was it. Next thing I knew, I was driving to Andy's house every morning, and we were going in there and making knives and stuff, and that was it.
We lived the whole summer off of salsa that I made from the tomatoes growing on the side of the house.
Yeah, I ate all of his food. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm a little chunky. And I can tell you his wife was tired of me being at that house. She'd come home and be like, "Where's some hummus?" "We're all out." "Why are you in the living room telling me we're all out?" "What are you... What?" So that was that. But yeah, been a barrel of laughs since then. It was a good thing we became good friends, because we've kind of been stuck together for a long time.
We have. But we did become friends almost immediately.
Yeah.
And maybe a year after he started, we moved out of the basement and rented a facility. And since then, it's just been a blessing. The knives have been a blessing. So.
Yeah, been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Not everybody does a good job in this business. And one of the genius things that Andy has going for him is the marketing. And that helped me more easily move into the business, just because I had somebody who was like, "Here's everything that I did," and I was able to start my company and go ahead and have it a marketing, to a huge amount of people, because he already had a bunch of people following him. So it made it a lot more easy of a transition for me.
It's one thing I try to do for the apprentices is to help them with the marketing. The marketing's the hard part, and the branding and the selling and the business end of it. I try to help the apprentices with that as well.
And he does a good job.
Dylan didn't really have all that much to worry with. He's pretty good at selling himself, so.
So you got a DIY project.
Okay, this week we're going to do a survival DIY project. And so what we've got here is a new survival concept. We've taken this common jar and we've tacticaled it. And so what we have here is tactical gravy.
Tactical gravy.
Survival gravy. And so what you do if you're in a survival situation with more than one person is you sprinkle the tactical gravy on the other person at night while they're asleep. And then if you get chased by an apex predator, you can easily just separate yourself from that person and feel totally confident that the apex predator is going to follow the guy that smells like gravy.
Yeah.
Just makes sense.
Yeah.
Everybody should have tactical gravy in their survival bug out bag.
No longer do you have to rely on being able to sweep the leg perfectly while running next to your camping buddy.
That's right.
You can just throw some of this gravy on them, and you're good to go. Smooth sailing.
Works every time.
Yeah.
Flawless.
And you know what? It's black.
That's right.
Okay? That means tactical.
That you could sneak onto a military base with this and your friend would smell like gravy.
For real.
Thanks for watching the Fiddleback News Show this week. We'll see you at Blade Show.
Yeah.
We're still training on the clapper.
Now?
He's much better at that this week.
Yeah.